Okay, for number 6, there's an airplane and it's traveling against the wind and then it's coming back with the wind, and they want us to find the total flying time for the round trip if there was no wind. Okay, so let's make our table. D equals R times T, and we have with the wind and against the wind, right? Okay, so let's fill in our information. It takes an airplane 1 hour and 30 minutes against the wind. So 1 hour and 30 minutes. So that's 1.5. 1 hour and 30 minutes is 1.5 hours. I'm going to do it in hours. To fly 600 kilometers against the wind. The return trip, again, return trip, we assume it's the same distance for any return trip, with the wind takes only 1 hour, so this is 1. Okay, so now let's find the information and then we'll answer the specific question. So the rate is the speed of the plane in still air plus or minus the wind. So when you're going with the wind is pushing you along faster, right, plus the wind. And when you're going against the wind, you have the speed of the plane in still air, and the wind is slowing you down, so you have minus the wind. So across the top shows us our equations. So the first row, we have 600 equals 1 times P plus W, right? 1 times P plus W. And the second equation has 600, or the second row, has 1.5 times P minus W. Okay, so now we can simplify these, right? So the first one just becomes 600 equals P plus W. The second one, I'm going to divide both sides by 1.5, right? I'm going to divide both sides by 1.5 instead of distributing it in. So 600 divided by 1.5 is 400. And then the 1.5 on the right cancels out, so we get P minus W. Okay, so now I'm going to solve by elimination, right? So I'm going to add this, right? I have 600 plus 400 is 1,000 equals P plus P is 2P, and the W and the negative W cancel out. So I have 500 equals P. P equals 500. Okay, now let's read the question, what they want us to find. They want us to find the total flying time for the round trip if there was no wind. Okay, so the round trip, let's take a look at this. The round trip is made up of 600 and 600, right? So the round trip is made up of 1,200 miles, right? That's the round trip, 1,200 miles, round trip. Okay. And if we could go, for instance, 600 miles an hour, then 1,200 would take us to, right? We divide it in. So we just figured out that in still air, the plane can find 500 miles. So the round trip, the time, right? The time is going to be, if we have distance, right, equals rate times time, and I want to solve for time, right, I would get D over R equals time, right? So the time equals D over R. So in this case, the time is 1,200 miles divided by the plane speed in still air, which is 500. So 1,200 divided by 500 comes out to 2.4, right? So we could write it would take 200 or 2.4 hours. That would be fine. We could write 2.4 hours, right? It would take 2.4 hours. However, typically we don't do that, right? We don't say time in 2.4, 2.3, 2.2, right? So we normally say in how many minutes. So this would be 2 hours, and then 0.4 of an hour. 0.4 times 60 is 24. So we'd say 2 hours and 24 minutes. I would think that's a nicer answer for this problem, but 2.4 hours would not be incorrect.